Chapter 6 and Song 6 Summary. Philosophy answers Boethius's challenge. First, she states that everything that happens in the universe originates in the unchanging divine mind who plans everything that happens. This plan is called Providence when viewed from God's perfect perspective as a whole, but fate when viewed by man's limited perspective as it occurs. Providence is God's perfect plan, while fate is God's carrying out that plan in time. Therefore, the second aspect depends on the first. Even though some of God's purposes are impossible for us to understand because we cannot view the whole, those purposes do exist and move everything in the universe toward the good. God deals rightly with every human being according to what he knows he needs. Whether that means giving adversity to a person who appears just but is not, withholding adversity from a just person, giving adversity to a just person to increase his virtue, giving adversity or blessings to a wicked person either to destroy him or heal him, and only God can make an evil person good. Human beings must accept the fact of God's guidance of all things toward the good, because no one can fully grasp or explain all that God does. Chapter 6. Although your words are true, I responded, since your task is to unfold the hidden causes of things and to explain principles veiled in darkness, please explain your conclusion, since more than anything else, the strangeness of what I see disturbs my mind. A smile flickered on her lips, and she replied, You call me to the greatest of all subjects of inquiry. The most exhaustive study is barely enough to grasp it. As soon as you cut one doubt away, its nature makes countless others spring up like the heads of Hydra. Nor could we prevent that unless we scorched them with the mind's living fire. For questions about the essential oneness of providence come within its scope, as well as the order of fate, unforeseen chance, divine knowledge and predestination, and the freedom of the will. You can judge for yourself the great weight of these questions. But since knowing these things is part of the treatment of your disease, we will try to consider them, even though the narrow limits of our time restrict us. And you must deprive yourself for a while of the pleasures of music and song, if you enjoy them, while I weave the reasons together in their proper order. Whatever you wish, I agreed. Then, as if making a fresh start, she began to explain. The creation of all things, the whole course of development in things that change, or whatever moves in any way, everything receives its proper cause, order, and shape from the steadfastness of the divine mind. This mind, calm in the citadel of its own oneness, has decreed that it will govern using many means. Viewed in the purity of divine intelligence, this method is called providence. But viewed regarding the things it moves and arranges, it is what the ancients called fate. Anyone who studies the power of each will clearly see how they differ. Providence is the divine reason itself, seated in the Supreme Being, which arranges all things. Fate is the arrangement inherent in all moving things, through which providence links all things in their proper order. Providence embraces all things simultaneously, however different, however infinite. Fate sets individual things in motion separately, according to their different positions, shapes, and times. So the arrangement of this temporal plan, unified in the foresight of the divine mind, is providence. The same unified plan, broken up and unfolded through time, is fate. And although they differ, they still depend on each other, for the order of fate flows out of the simplicity of providence. For as the craftsman first forms in his mind the idea of what he plans to make, and then carries out his design, and develops from moment to moment what he had seen in a single instant as a whole, so God, in his providence, ordains all things as parts of a single unchanging whole, but carries out what he has ordained by fate, each thing individually, through the flow of time. So, whether fate is accomplished by divine spirits as the servants of Providence, or by the soul of the universe, or by the service of all nature, whether by the motion of the stars of heaven, by the power of angels, or by the diverse skills of demons, whether, I say, by all or by some of these the destined series is woven, one thing is clear. Providence is the unmoving, unified form of destined events, and fate is their shifting series unfolding in the course of time as the divine oneness has determined they will take place. Therefore, all things subject to fate are also subject to providence, since fate itself depends on it. But certain things that are set under providence are above the chain of fate. I mean those things that by their nearness to the supreme Godhead are immovable, and so lie outside the changeable order governed by fate. For the innermost of several revolving concentric circles approaches the simplicity of the center, and is, as it were, a pivot around which the exterior circles turn. At the same time, the outermost circle, orbiting more broadly, takes in a wider and wider sweep of space in proportion to its departure from the center's indivisible unity. And whatever connects itself to the center is narrowed to a similar simplicity and is no longer spread out into space. In the same way, whatever moves further away from the Supreme Mind is more deeply tangled in the meshes of fate, and things are free from fate in proportion as they seek to come nearer to that central axis. On the other hand, if anything clings to the Supreme Mind in its absolute immovability, this, too, being free from movement, rises above the necessity fate forces upon it. Therefore, as reasoning relates to pure intelligence, as that which is generated relates to that which is, as time to eternity, and as a circle to its center, so the shifting chain of fate relates to the steadfastness and simplicity of providence. This chain of fate moves heaven and the stars, combines the elements in mutual harmony, and again, in turn, varies and transforms them. This renews the series of all things that are born and die by generating seed and offspring. This is the operation that binds people's destinies by an unbreakable chain of causes, and since an unalterable providence has determined them from the beginning, these destinies must necessarily be unchangeable. For the only way that the world is ruled for the best is if this unity existing in the divine mind sets an inflexible order of causes into motion. And this order, since it is unchangeable by nature, restricts changeable things that otherwise would ebb and flow randomly. And so, although all things seem confused and disordered to you, who cannot completely understand this order, nevertheless, an appointed limit guides all things everywhere to good. Truly, even the wicked themselves cannot do anything for the sake of evil, since they seek good, as we abundantly proved, but are drawn out of the way by perverse error. Far less can this order of events that flows out from the supreme center of goodness be deflected 1 inch from its determined course. Yet what confusion, you will object, can be more unrighteous than having prosperity and adversity indiscriminately fall upon the good, while what they like and what they loathe come both in turn to the bad? Yes, but do people in real life have such soundness of mind that their judgments of righteousness and wickedness always fit the facts? Why, on this very point their verdicts disagree, and those whom some count worthy of reward, others count worthy of punishment. Let us say someone existed who could rightly distinguish between the good and bad. Would he be able to look into the inner parts of the soul, as it were, if we may borrow an expression used of the body? The marvel here is like that which astonishes anyone who does not know why in health sweet things suit some constitutions and bitter others, or why some sick people are best made well by mild remedies and others by severe. But the doctor who distinguishes the precise conditions and characteristics of health and sickness is not surprised. Now, the health of the soul is nothing but righteousness, and wickedness its sickness. God is the guide and doctor of the mind, preserving the good and banishing the bad. He looks out from the lofty watchtower of his providence, perceiving and assigning what is suitable for everyone. This, then, is the extraordinary mystery of the order of destiny. God, who knows, acts, and people who are ignorant marvel. But let us consider a few instances to show how competently human reason can fathom the deep things of God. Here is one whom you consider perfect in justice and scrupulous integrity, but all-knowing providence perceives the opposite. We all know our Lucan's admonition that the winning cause found favor with the gods, but the beaten cause with Cato. So even when you see anything in this world that defies your expectations, do not doubt that events are rightly ordered. What looks like perverse disorder exists only in your imagination. Grant, however, that you could find someone with such a happy character that God and people alike agree in their judgments about him. But suppose that his mind is not as strong as it should be. Perhaps, if he falls into adversity, he will stop walking in integrity, since it has failed to secure his fortune. Therefore, God's wise dispensation spares someone whom adversity might make worse, not letting someone suffer who is not prepared to endure. Someone else is perfect in all virtue, so holy and near to God that Providence judges it unlawful for any adversity to happen to him. No, does not even let bodily disease afflict him. As someone more excellent than I once said, the heavens formed the body of the holy man. Authority over others is often given to the good to restrain excessive wickedness. To others, Providence assigns some mixed destiny suited to their spiritual nature. Some it will plague, lest they grow rotten through long prosperity. To others, it will permit painful afflictions to confirm their virtues as they learn to practice patience. Some fear too much things they actually have strength to bear. Others despise too much what their strength could not bear. Providence tests the true self of both through misfortune. Some also have bought a name revered to future ages at the price of a glorious death. Some, by enduring their sufferings invincibly, have lifted up an example to others that calamity cannot overcome virtue. All these things, without doubt, come to pass rightly and in due order, and to the benefit of those who experience them. As to the other side of the marvel, that the bad sometimes meet with affliction and sometimes get their heart's desire, this, too, springs from the same causes. Of course, no one marvels about the afflictions, because everyone thinks that the wicked deserve to suffer. The truth is, their punishments both frighten others from crime and correct those on whom they are inflicted. And their prosperity preaches a powerful sermon to the good, showing how they should view good fortune of this kind, which often follows the wicked so attentively. But I can think of another reason for good fortune. Someone may have such a reckless and violent nature that poverty would drive him more desperately into crime. Providence relieves his disorder by allowing him to pile up money. Someone else, seeing his conscience stained with guilt, contrasting his bad character with his good fortune, may grow alarmed lest he come to mourn the loss of possessions he so deeply adores. He decides to reform his ways, forsaking his iniquity because he fears losing his fortune. Some, because they have used their prosperity unworthily, have been hurled head-first into ruin. To some, the power of the sword has been committed so that the good can be tested by discipline and the bad punished. For while there can be no peace between the righteous and the wicked, neither can the wicked agree among themselves. How can they? Each is at odds with himself, because his vices tear his conscience apart, and because he often does things and then later judges that he should not have done them. In this way, the supreme providence accomplishes this notable marvel. The bad make the bad good. For some, when they see the injustice they themselves suffer at the hands of evildoers, are inflamed with animosity toward the offenders, and, trying to be unlike those whom they hate, return to the ways of virtue. To the divine power alone evil things are also good, in that, by using them suitably, it accomplishes some good result. For order in some way or other embraces all things, so that even something that has departed from the order planned for it nevertheless falls within an order, although another order. So nothing in the realm of providence happens by chance. But, as Homer wrote, it would be difficult to recount everything, omitting nothing, like a god. Nor, truly, is anyone permitted to comprehend in his mind the whole blueprint of God's work, or to explain it in speech. Let us be content to have understood only this: God, who created all things in the world, also arranges them and guides them to the good. And while he diligently preserves all that he has created in his likeness, he banishes all evil from the borders of his kingdom through the links of necessity governed by fate. And if you look at how Providence has planned everything, you will not see anywhere the evils that some believe abound on earth. But I see that the weight of this subject has burdened you. The length of my argument has exhausted you, and you are looking forward to the refreshment of a sweet song. Listen, then, and may this drink renew your determination to apply your mind to what I still have to say. Song 6. The Universal Aim. Would you with unclouded mind view the laws by God designed? Lift your steadfast gaze on high to the starry canopy. See, in common league of love, all the constellations move. Fiery sun in full career ne'er obstructs the cold moon's sphere. Ursa Major, riding high, wheels his charger's rapid flight. Though he sees the starry line sinking in the western brine, he complains not, nor desires in the flood to quench his fires. In true sequence, as decreed, daily dawn and dusk succeed. Evening star brings shades of night, morning star the brightening light. Love again the cycle moves, and the eternal course renews. Thus discordant strife is driven from the starry realm of heaven. Thus in wondrous harmony warring elements agree. Hot and cold, and moist and dry, lay their ancient quarrel by. High the flickering flame ascends, downward earth forever tends. So the year in spring's mild hours loads the air with scent of flowers. Summer paints the golden grain. Then, when autumn comes again, bright with fruit the orchards glow. Winter brings the rain and snow. Thus the seasons' fixed progression, joined in measured, right succession, nourishes and brings to birth all that lives and breathes on earth. Then, soon done life's little day, all it brought it takes away. But one sits and holds the reins, he who made and all sustains, King and Lord and fountainhead, Judge most holy, law most dread, now impels and now keeps back, holds each waverer in its track. Else were once the power withheld that the circling spheres compelled in their orbits to revolve, this world's order would dissolve, and the harmonious whole would all in one hideous ruin fall. But through this connected frame runs one love, one common aim. Toward the good do all things tend, many paths, but one the end. Nothing lasts unless it turns backward in its course and yearns to that source again to flow, who conceived it long ago.